Welcome back, everybody. This is going to be part 2 of the Building a Team Set video series, and we're going to be working within the spreadsheet that I actually covered in another video. So if you haven't had a chance to look at the video titled Player List Spreadsheet shown here, I would recommend you do so before watching this video. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that you have an understanding of what we're looking at here. Now, in the previous video for building team sets, I advised people interested in building a team set to start collecting data about potential players that they may or may not be interested in, with the understanding that one of your best routes for getting players is to seek them out as silver or bronze and perform grade increases to get them up to the level that you want, because the chance of actually landing a diamond or gold of the player of the team that you want in the proper year is pretty tough. So by gathering data about the players, you're going to know which ones to target. So given that I am dealing with a Boston team, I'm going to filter myself down to Boston players. And for the sake of my example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new player that I don't have on my list so far. So let's clear everything. We'll go to Red Sox, we'll select them, boom, and we are now filtered down to Red Sox players. And if we look in game, I have landed a player. Let's see, where is he? I think he's a batter. There we go. This is Rajai Davis. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that okay. So don't laugh at me, guys. I know my pronunciations are bad. But anyways, so how we add this guy in, this should be old hat. If you watch the other video, we're going to choose a place in the spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be in alphabetical order. I can just place them at the end here. And what I want to do is, let me scroll this down so I can have both on the screen at the same time. We'll change the size of this. Actually, we're going to scroll them up. There we go. There's our blank line. We have our player on the screen. So you should know that I need the base card, so I need to subtract all these grade increased numbers. So first of all, we'll go oops. As I fumble around with my windows here. Davis R 2017. He's a normal card. He's from the Red Sox. He is a center fielder. Copy this formula down. So, oops, can't see the numbers. Scroll those up. And still can't see them. This is not helping. Fumble, fumble, fumble. Okay. And of course, now we can't see that. This is just not working out too well. Okay, here we go. Contact 71 minus 3 is 68. Then we have 62, 61, 75, and 58. We need to copy the formulas down from the other row. And we can see I now have a player that can top out at OVR 96 and is a base OVR of 64. So I'll collect all my data like this. And then what I'll do is, for my team, I'm short on relievers at this point in time. So what I want to do is I want to scan my list of players here. And once again, since I'm flipping over to pitchers, I've got to refilter this down. So let's clear this. We'll set our filter to the Red Sox. And I'm in need of relievers. So let's filter down to only relievers. And then what I want to do is I want to sort by what their max OVR is. So I will go Z to A order on this. And of the relievers that I have available, the top relievers that I'm going to be looking for are 2017 Kimbrel. That's pretty obvious. He had a great year. That's a great version of his card. A couple signature cards, which I really can't target by just opening packs. So I want to go with the next highest possible normal card that I can get. That's going to be Uehara here, or once again, however you pronounce his name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this range all the way up through all of his rating numbers, and I'm going to copy these. Oh, darn it. Okay, I don't know if that's going to work or not. Anyways, we're going to copy that. Hopefully it's going to allow me to do this. We'll go over to my pictures. And, oh wait, I already have Uehara, so I need to select the next guy below him. Let's see, who's next normal? Hembry. Let's see if we can get Hembry. And I used Control-C to copy that without doing the mouse right click. I will go ahead and insert him here. And then I'll copy down the rest of these numbers. And I'm going to go over what a lot of these numbers are shortly. So basically what I've done here is I've added him to my list of players that either I have in my collection or I want to target for gathering. And by doing so, this allows me to kind of have a list of guys to keep my eye out for when I'm opening packs. So if I ever run across a bronze version of 2016 Hembry, bronze, silver, or gold, then I'm going to keep him. And then I'm going to start leveling him up and just keeping him in my backups so that if I ever get a spare grade increase ticket, I will raise him up to a level where I could actually use him, because he will max out at 99.6. Actually, let's... Okay, fine. We'll go into detail about the rest of that later. But anyways, so this allows me to track all the players that I actually want to target. So with that said, I can manage my roster. I can keep track of who I actually have in my collection and who I'm actually targeting. Now let's go through and actually take a look at what I'm tracking about all the players in my collection and how I'm going about doing so. Okay, so before we get started looking into the information that I track in my spreadsheet, let me just make a comment that if you've already downloaded the spreadsheet, you're probably going to want to grab another copy of it, because I added in additional information to make it more usable for people such as yourself that might be wanting to track your players in here. So grab another copy and you'll probably see where the differences are as we take a look through here. So let me point out that with my spreadsheet and the list of players that you're looking at here, I track 3 types of players. 1, players that I currently have in my collection. 2, players that I previously have had that I have comboed away. I kind of just for posterity like to look back at some of the players that I had to mulch along my way to my path to glory, and then lastly I have players that I want to target, basically essentially my wish list. And the way that I track these is through this column here that is headed with the heading mulch, which basically stands, I'll have 3 values in here. If it's on my wish list, it means I don't have it, so I just have a dash there. If it's something I have in my collection but I haven't mulched it yet, that's a no there. I have not mulched it. And for players that I have had previously that I have comboed away, then I put a Y there for mulch. So this is kind of what you can see why I do this. It's like a little bit sad that I've mulched away things like Anthony Rizzo's signature card, Troy Tulowitzki's signature card. I've mulched away quite a number of primes. I had a grade 73 Robinson Cano from 2013 that I mulched away. Who would have that Cano maxed out at 102.4, which is an excellent card. Anyways, so that just kind of allows me to look back and see some of the things that I have destroyed. Now, one of the enhancements that I've made to this spreadsheet, and this tab of my spreadsheets, by the way, I forgot to point out down at the bottom here. This is the My Batters and the My Pitchers tabs that we're going to be looking at. So the player lists that we already looked at were batters and pitchers registry, and My Batters is what we're looking at right now. Anyways, enhancement that I made since the last version is up to the right, top right, after the end of the table. I have two things. One, if you have a team bonus in effect, the number that, so mine is currently a C rating, which is +2. If you had an S rating, you'd change this number to number 5, and it will automatically calculate that in when calculating your max OVR. Second, I need to know which team it is that you are building so that I can determine whether or not I am adding in those values into my calculations. So you will see here I have a set bonuses column, and some of the bonuses are not just 5. For a player that's not a Red Sox and is not a signature, it's just going to be 5. If it is a signature that is not a Red Sox, it's going to be 10. If it's a Red Sox diamond player but not a signature, that's going to be 5 for the normal diamond set. In my case, it's an additional 2, so that's 7 points set bonus. So you can see it adjusts the set bonus based on what type of card you are and whether or not it is on your team set, and then it calculates that into the max OVR column. So walking through the columns, what we're looking at here, the leftmost columns are direct copy and paste from the other spreadsheet. So this is how you add your players in very quickly. You find them on the other spreadsheet, or you enter them on the other spreadsheet, you copy them to the clipboard, and you paste these first numbers over. Base OVR, you're going to want to copy the formula. Anyways, then going across from the right, grade increase. This is what grade increase you have on the card. So for cards in my possession, such as Altuve here, you simply add together his grade increase line. So let's flip over to actually looking at Altuve here. And if I expand that out, if I look at the grade increase line here, if I add those numbers together, those are going to come to 73, and that's what this number is right here. Okay. Now, the next thing that you won't have seen anywhere else is I like to evaluate my players based on their batting numbers in isolation from the rest of it. So the OVR that we typically look at is across all 5 skills. It's an average of all 5 of those numbers right here. So, but what I like to do is I like to say, okay, if I just look at his batting numbers and I compare them to other batters, how do those numbers look relative to other players? So, for example, Altuve here is a 110 batting OVR as compared to Pedroia, another second baseman who currently is just a touch over higher in OVR than my Altuve, but Altuve is a slightly better batter. So that might influence my decision to actually have a stronger batter in my roster. Now, I'm going to have to jump and cover something else while we're at this so you understand how to handle this. So let's say I wanted to take a look at all of my players and I want to, you'll notice I'm currently sorted on max OVR. So the highest OVR, highest, and then so on. Let's say I wanted to actually sort them based on their batting OVR. Now, unfortunately, I can't just do this because then what's going to happen is it's going to mix in ones that I have already mulched away and ones that are on my wish list, etc. So what I do is this. You select all of the columns except the team bonus and all those types of things. Then I go to the data menu. I choose sort range. And what I do is I sort primarily by the S column, which is my mulch. So I'll change this to S, and I will sort secondarily by the other column that I want to order by. In this case, I want to order by their batting OVR, which is column M here. You can faintly see in the background, so I'll go M, and when I'm dealing with OVRs, I do that in Z to A order. Now I'm going to sort by that. Now here's what you see. First of all, items on my wish list are still at the top. Then we go to items in my existing collection. So Of the cards in my existing collection, the batting OVRs rated from high to low are, we'll just look at the top guys, are here. Okay, so we can see that Pujols' prime card is a batting OVR of 112, and that is the best batting OVR I have in my collection. Next highest is Mookie Betts, and then Chris Bryant, etc., etc. Now, another thing to point out is for cards that are Mookie Betts here is a gold currently in his current state. I just use backgrounds to track that. And I always put, for cards that have not been brought up to diamond yet, I always track their max grade increase so that when I'm sorting, I can see how they could potentially fit in. And for the ones that I've actually landed or are actually already in my collection, then obviously I have to use the real grade increase. So Mookie Betts could potentially have up to a batting OVR of 111.1. The next thing to point out is when I am calculating this batting OVR, I am taking into effect the grade increase, and I'm taking 3/5 of that and adding that as the grade increase for my batting score. So if I just added these together and tried to add the grade increase, that would come out lopsided. So I have to take 3/5 of this, I add that in, and average that out, and that's how I get my batting OVR. So this, by using batting OVR, we have a means of tracking and evaluating the batting capabilities of my players against each other. Now, moving on, the base diamond, well, that's pretty simple. Given the grade rating and the base rating of the card, what is he going to look like as a diamond, as a level 1 diamond before he gets leveled up? Now, the next column you're going to see is the adjusted OVR. And this is where things start to get interesting, because this is me attempting to evaluate a player based on his OVR and factoring into account the skills that he has on his card and how they would adjust his OVR. Now, let me just put a caveat on this and put out there that this is not a perfect system by any means, because in doing this, I'm attempting to attribute OVR type ratings to skills such as batting machine, which do not directly affect OVR. So the numbers that we're plugging in here, as I'm going to show you shortly, are going to be completely subjective to what values you hold. And I'll show you that in just a little bit of detail in just a second. So in doing so, I've built out a system which I could effectively rank my players based on their skills, but it's not perfect. But what I can show you is this. So first of all, let's perform our sort like I just showed you before. We're going to, once again, go to data. We're going to sort. We're going to sort primarily by the mulch column. Then we're going to sort by the adjusted OVR, which is column O. Once again, in reverse order. Same thing. My wish list cards are up at the top. Don't really pay attention to those. And now, based on the skills that my players have, this shows me how I would value them. So basically what it says is the top 9 position players or whatever are the ones that I'm going to want to be starting in my roster. Based on how I value my starting the skills that they have, and factoring that into their OVR. These are the players I should be focusing on. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Let's take a look at how effective this is and whether or not this is a valid system for evaluating things. So jumping back over into the game, let's take a look at how my players are actually performing in ranked play right now. Now, I made a point of this season playing a lot more actual realistic games against other top players, entirely using simulation. I don't manual play. So if you manual play me, you're taking advantage of me. So I'm asking you not to do that. But nonetheless, that's me just bitching. Looking at stats, let's take a look at my batters, and let's sort them by average. Now, interesting thing here. Let's see. Let's take a look at what we have here. the ranking of my batters. And first I'll point out that Frazier here has not played enough games to factor in, so we got to ignore what his results are. And the other one that we need to ignore is Molina, because he hadn't been skilled up yet. So his skills haven't really had a chance to take effect. But everybody else should be valid. So you'll see the top 2 players that are actually performing on my team are Pujols and Goldschmidt. And if we look up here at the ranking, Goldschmidt and Pujols in the other order, but nonetheless, they are still the top 2 players. Going down from there, the next best performer on my team is Altuve for batting average. And look at what we have. We have Altuve here, actually. Looks like I can't click on those or I'll lose my focus. Nonetheless, I haven't been starting Jackie Bradley Jr., so he's not on the list. Going down from there, though, we have Trout as the next best performer. And look, there's Trout. I'm not using Napoli or Gonzalez. Frazier doesn't have enough at-bats. And then we have Bogarts. And look at that. We got Xander Bogarts there as well. So, I mean, it just so happened to come out this way. Maybe next season wouldn't work out this way. But this shows me that my system isn't completely bogus. It at least is relatively reflective of what is actually happening in game. So now let's get into the actual values that I'm using for these the adjusted OVR. First of all, I track these in skill bonuses and I add them together. So this 19 here from Molina is the values that I have given hit the 3 skills of his added together. So what am I using? First of all, this is the chart I'm basing those numbers off of, those the skill bonuses column. And I would like to point out, so let's start. Looks like I forgot to change my headings. Nonetheless, anyways, for pitchers, the baseline is 8 because is 8 for Ace, because Ace adds at level 6. It adds 8 points to all of your pitching skills. So obviously, when I'm factoring this into an OVR of a player, then I want to be assigning the same value that I'm getting added by Ace. So I use Ace and Legend as my baseline. So if you want to use this system, and you find that you value things differently than I do, for example, some people value prediction a lot higher, or batting machine more highly than I do. If you value batting machine and you think that it is a superior skill to Legend, then when you add that number up, you need to put a value over 8 here. So you would maybe you value batting machine a little bit higher than charisma. You would put that as a 10, and any batter that you have that has the skill batting machine would get 10 points for batting machine, and if he also has charisma, he'd have 8 points, so he'd have 18 as a skill bonus in the skill bonus column here. So in my case, Molina's skills added up to 19. So, okay. So I'm not going to argue whether or not one skill is better than the other. I'm just going to tell you these are the values that I use to evaluate my players. Use your own values, come up with your own system as far as how you want to actually rank these things, and then plug in your values. In doing so, then you'll be able to factor those numbers into the OVR and come up with this adjusted OVR. In the same manner, pitchers, I've done the same type of thing. I add in the skill bonuses column, I add that in. I have an adjusted OVR for the pitcher, factoring into their account their skill bonuses, and that's what the adjusted OVR is. The only thing that I haven't mentioned, because we haven't been talking about pitchers, is what the pitching OVR is. The pitching OVR is location and velocity, fastball, and breaking ball. Basically all the skills except for stamina. So this allows you a system of being able to evaluate relief pitchers against each other more validly, and actually against your starting pitchers. So if I were to sort by that, let's go data, sort range. My mulch column is S once again. That's consistent. Then we're going to sort by pitching OVR, which is column N. going to do that in reverse order. We can see then that ignoring Chapman has the highest pitching OVR of all my players. So previously, Bumgarner's signature card was the top potential OVR I had on my entire team. But when you compare him against Chapman and you factor out stamina, Chapman actually has the better numbers. So that becomes kind of interesting. Whereas you can see over here, max OVR, they don't compare. So anyways, that's what pitching OVR is. So what we've done here is we have walked through, hey, how to configure this for your team, how to factor into account your team bonus here. Then we've also talked about new OVR ratings, the pitching OVR and the batting OVR, a new way to evaluate your players. We've also talked about skill bonuses and being able to factor in the skills that you have into a calculation that determines what their adjusted OVR is, so you can compare them against each other with their skills intact and evaluate all of that at the same time, as opposed to having to remember, oh, well, Molina actually has Charisma and Legend, which, let's see, Pujols does not, so I think Molina's better, but without actually having some type of system, this allows you a way to evaluate that. Let's see, before I close this out, I believe I've covered everything that I want to. So, yeah, give the system a try. You can track your players. I used to track a lot more information in the spreadsheet. I used to actually put the names of all the skills and actually put their individual batting numbers and all these types of things, and it just got too tedious. So the reason that I only track these columns here is because it allows me to be able to cut and paste them from the list of players without having to add and enter a whole bunch more information manually and make the whole process a lot more tedious. The the skill bonuses, this is a manual number. You have to add this in by yourself based on how you value the skills. I didn't build a system to automatically calculate these. You have to use a table similar to this one. You have to add in the numbers and then add them up and put them into that column. Okay, so I hope this is useful to you. I hope this isn't all too confusing. Feel free to ask questions about any aspect of this. The calculations and the formulas are all in there. So if you know anything about spreadsheets, you can try and work those out. This is not an expert level spreadsheet. It's actually fairly basic, so don't be too intimidated. And with that, I'll bring this video to a close. Thanks for watching. I hope you find it useful. Give me a thumbs up or hit subscribe if you like it. And also feel free to add comments and suggestions if you want to see me enhance the spreadsheet at all. And if I have time, I will. So thanks again and farewell.